Well, after dropping a bombshell during her testimony at the Senate last week, an official of government supplier Pharmaly Pharmaceutical has gone off radar. Lawmakers are working on getting in touch with her to ensure her safety. Amor Santos joins us live. Amor, tell us more.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee has formally asked the National Bureau of Investigation for assistance in tracking down Pharmaly official Crizel Grace Mago. It's been 3 days since the committee last talked to her. That's after her shocking admission that her company swindled the government by tampering the expiration dates of the face shields it bought from Pharmaly. Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Richard Gordon says he received information that Mago is in a safe house with bodyguards, but he has no idea who's with her. He makes an appeal to Mago.
I've been kind to you. We've all been kind to you out of concern. You're a Paulinian. I hope you come to your senses if you're hiding. But if you're hiding from the bad guys, tell us because we will try to protect you.
Meanwhile, another Pharmaly executive director, Lynn Conong, now refuses to participate in an executive session with senators. Pharmaly executive director Lynn Conong now refuses to participate in an executive session with senators. It's upon the advice of his new counsel, Ferdinand Topacio, who claims the Senate probe has not been fair. According to Gordon, there are clearly efforts to prevent Mago and Ong from testifying. He says he believes it all traces back to President Duterte, who has been lambasting Senate hearings and defending his former economic advisor Michael Yang, who allegedly provided financial help for Pharmaly in its transactions with government.
Di ba nasasabing principal na pinakamalaking tao na tigilan niya na investigasyon? President Duterte. Kasama siya dyan kasama eh. Hindi may paliwanag ni Presidente bakit niya inaawat to. Di ba kataka ka? Kasi ang Presidente masyadong mataas ang dating eh. Ibang kala niya napaka-powerful niya eh.
Gordon warns Chinese businessman Michael Yang that he can be deported anytime. Back to you.
Amor, does that mean that Senator Gordon will file a complaint against Yang with the Bureau of Immigration?
See, as of now, Gordon says he's not yet planning on doing that just yet. He just wants to remind Michael Yang that his stay in the country is only a privilege and that the Chinese national should not be, quote, smug and thumbing his nose at the Filipino people. Yeah.
And what are the implications now that these two Pharmaly officials may refuse to cooperate with the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee?
For Gordon, nothing much. He says there's already a strong case against Pharmaly, Michael Yang, and the government officials involved in the alleged procurement anomalies. But there's no committee report yet. There will still be a Senate hearing on Thursday. Yeah.
Amor Santos there reporting. Now, following a Pharmaly official's admission of tampering, DIWA party list representative Michael Aglipay, who is also the House Good Government and Accountability Committee chairman, questioned health authorities if wearing the supposed expired medical-grade face shields resulted in the deaths of frontliners.
May nagkasakit po ba at saka may namatay dahil sa face shields na binigay ng DOH sa mga frontliners?
Wala. Malaking tulong po itong face shield na to sa mga frontliners natin.
Ma'am, please answer the question, yes or no lang. May namatay ba at nagkasakit sa face shield na mga inisyu ng DOH?
Wala naman po sa pagkakaalam namin po.
Surigao Representative Johnny Pimentel then concluded it was a good buy, saying the face shields were distributed and were utilized. Health Secretary Francisco Duque says medical-grade face shields generally have a 36-month shelf life. He explains the styrofoam glued on the face shield to cushion the wearer's forehead is what expires. Now, the panel will subpoena Pharmaly Executive Crizel Mago to the next hearing on October 4. Malacanang insists there is no corruption or irregularity in the procurement deal with Pharmaly, but on the issue of tampering of face shields, the palace says it must be substantiated. Malacanang, however, says it is up to the Justice Department if it will investigate the matter. The Health Department might also look into it.
Ang tanong po, tatayo ba ho yung ganyang testimonya? Tignan po natin. Kinakailangan po kasi yan masubstantiate. Dapat physical evidence ang ating ibigay sa hukuman kasi kung testimonya lang, talk is cheap. Pwedeng mabili, pwedeng matakot. So hanapan pa po natin ng substantiated evidence. No? Hindi lang po yung testimonya ng isang tao.
palace is confident there is no evidence that would link President Duterte to Farmley, adding that all allegations implicating him in the issue or are politically motivated. The Education Department backtracks on its stand on teachers' vaccination as it lays down more guidelines for the pilot run of face-to-face classes. Government officials maintain they are equipped with measures amid the risk of virus transmission. Caroline Bonquin tells us more.
Apart from being not over 65 years old and having no existing illness, the government added a requirement for teachers and school staff joining the test run for in-person classes.
All school personnel, teachers and non-teaching should be fully vaccinated when they participate in the pilot face-to-face.
Just last week, Education Secretary Leonor Briones said COVID-19 vaccination won't be a requirement for teachers. But DepEd and the Health Department finally agreed it's crucial in protecting the still unvaccinated children. The government is not yet giving vaccines to children despite two brands securing approvals for up to as young as 12 years old as officials blame global supply shortage.
When the safety of the state is concerned from a pandemic, the state has the right to impose mandatory precautions.
Hanggat sa maaari na lahat ng humaharap sa bata ay bakunado, yun ang gusto naming mangyari. And the way by which we can protect the children.
Still, education and health officials do not dismiss the possibility of vaccinated adults getting COVID and asymptomatic carriers transferring the virus to children. But they insist safeguard measures are in place.
Testing will not be recommended. What we are going to do whenever there would be those children or even the teachers having symptoms, that's the time that we do isolation and then we do testing.
There will be a separate DOH contingency guidelines in case of infection among school personnel and children.
This virus will not be going away. We need to look at how best to provide the opportunity for face-to-face learning to children so then we can compensate the negative effects of not being able to have face-to-face learning.
The Teachers Dignity Coalition agrees with the mandatory vaccination for teachers and says even without the pilot test, teachers should be a priority for vaccines. The group also wants teachers' participation in physical classes to be optional and for DepEd to be liable in case a teacher or pupil gets sick.
Dapat po ito ay panagutan ng DepEd. Dapat gastusan niya ito, natulungan niya ito financially. Ang dami na pong nahawa ng mga teachers. The DepEd would just conveniently dismiss that those infections, non-work related. This time, hindi po kami papayag na ganun-ganun lang.
In a statement, DepEd says the agency has funding for COVID prevention, protection, and compliance with protocols for in-person class pilot run. But medical expenses will depend on what's indicated in the memorandum. Caroline Bonquin, CNN Philippines.
Moving on to a developing story overseas, an earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 6.5 struck the island of Crete in Greece this afternoon. The European Mediterranean Seismological Center reports the quake had a depth of 2 kilometers. Crete is the largest and most populous of all the Greek islands. It has a population of more than 634,000 based on data from the European Union. Again, this is a developing story. We'll bring you more information on possible casualties and damage as soon as they become available. Now, another global story is making headlines. Turkmenistan's authoritarian government claiming the country has not recorded a single COVID-19 case. Nearly 2 years since the pandemic began, its president dismissed reports of infections as fake and told the United Nations that pandemic response should not be politicized. But for journalists and activists outside Turkmenistan, the president is downplaying the situation to maintain his public image. They say the country is allegedly battling a third COVID-19 wave, which is overwhelming hospitals and killing dozens of people. Now, Germany may see a new government in the coming months. Preliminary results show the left-leaning Social Democratic Party, or SPD, getting the largest share of parliamentary seats in Sunday's federal election. SPD narrowly beat German Chancellor Angela Merkel's centrist-right conservative party, the Christian Democratic Union. The SPD will begin negotiations to form a ruling coalition, which could take months. Until then, Merkel will remain as chancellor, a post she has held since 2010. 2005. And a win for gender equality in Switzerland. The country legalized civil marriage for same-sex couples after a nearly two-thirds majority vote in a nationwide referendum Sunday. The amended law will also allow same-sex partners to adopt children unrelated to them. Married lesbian couples can also have children through sperm donation. The Swiss Justice Minister says the new rules may take effect July next year. Coming up on Newsnight, updates on the filing of certificates of candidacy for the 2022 polls and voter registration. Plus, we'll discuss measures the president is willing and allowed to take for the safe conduct of elections. Keep it here on Newsnight.
Exhausted and taking breaks wherever and whenever they can. These are some of the scenes that could be seen in some of the photos shared by a nurse who continued to work despite the ongoing pandemic. Over a year and a half has passed since lockdowns began, but according to nurses like Pauline Palma, their situation has yet to improve. Their patience is once again brought to the test as news broke out that some medical supplies, such as face shields bought by government to protect them from the virus, are below standard. In fact, during last Friday's Senate inquiry into how the DOH spent its COVID-19 funds, it was revealed that healthcare workers have been using expired face shields.
Parang na-betrayed kami mga health workers. Ang una kong inisip yung mga namatay kong kasamahan. Siyempre, hindi mo maalis sa isip namin yun, nasisihin ang DOH, ang gobyerno kung bakit namatay sila. Siguro yun yung isa sa mga dahilan.
Various health groups such as the Alliance of Health Workers share their disappointment on the matter. According to the Philippine Nurses Association, they are dismayed with how the government has been falling short in supporting them.
Ganyan lang ba natin pinaalagaan ang ating mga health workers?
The health department confirms that even materials such as face shields have a shelf life to maintain their quality.
Ito pong mga face shield na ito, meron ho siyang mga parte na maaring magkaroon ng deterioration over time. So katulad po ng mga face shield na ibang nabibili for our healthcare workers, meron ho siyang parang foam na nakadikit dyan para hindi masakit para sa mga noo ng ating healthcare workers.
Last Friday, an official from formerly the government's chosen supplier of protective equipment against COVID-19 admitted the expiration dates of face shields used by medical workers were changed or tampered with. For Pauline, these types of questionable moves are just a few of the reasons why she is seriously considering working for countries like United Kingdom, where there are greener pastures and safer environment for frontliners like herself. Chrissy de Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. The COMELEC will impose strict health protocols during the filing of certificates of candidacy from October 1st to 8th. Preparations underway at the Sofitel Hotel in Pasay to cater to national vets joining the 2022 race. All aspirants and their companions must present negative antigen tests, which may be taken on site. The poll body suggests candidates print forms ahead and have them notarized with a documentary stamp to reduce processing time and potential exposure at the venue. A portion of Ross Boulevard near Sofitel will be closed to traffic for security reasons. The venue was chosen for better ventilation compared to the cramped COMELEC headquarters in Intramuros. Now, experts believe securing the 2022 polls is largely a mandate of the Commission on Elections, but this line may be blurred if President Duterte invokes his military powers. More from Melissa Lopez.
The May 2022 elections is just around the corner, with COVID-19 crisis adding to safety threats as politicians battle for power. It's usually the Commission on Elections taking charge of police and military deployment in so-called hotspot areas. But now, President Duterte wants to step in. He says he will be forced to tap the military to ensure peaceful elections. COMELEC, however, says it has the authority to guard against election-related violence. Lawyer Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, points out the poll body has claimed that power since 2019, but it's not absolute.
Under the Constitution, the COMELEC can deputize law enforcement agencies, including the armed forces, for purposes of free and honest, orderly, credible elections with the concurrence of the President.
Monsod clarifies the President can only call upon the military to respond to invasion, rebellion, or lawless violence, which must be justified before Congress and the Supreme Court. A political analyst points out that the commander-in-chief's powers are not meant for election activities, and this time it may be contentious given Duterte's plan to run for vice president.
The other question is, may conflict of interest considering he's a candidate. Mapag-iisipan pa siya ng masama ng mga either kalaban niya sa politika or mga botante.
But another analyst says it's all part of the job.
It's not like it's the first time that the president is going to consider the military to ensure that how he plans to accomplish something, is that it is an option.
Monsod adds, whoever will control the police and military during the elections must be kept in check. He also warns that the anti-terrorism law may be weaponized. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
Only 3 days to go before voter registration ends, the Commission on Elections says it is closer to making a decision on whether or not to extend the deadline beyond September 30. Just this afternoon, the Senate unanimously approving a bill extending the registration for another month. Chairman Sharif Abbas led ranking COMELEC officials in a management committee meeting this morning. The 7-member COMELEC and Bank will decide on Wednesday.
And the commissioners consulted with the different regional directors and other officials of the COMELEC. We're preparing the recommendation now.
Last week, COMELEC said it can only grant a 1-week extension limited to new registrants and voter reactivation only. The poll body adds it is already pressed for time to finish other preparations for the May 2022 elections. Now, thousands of Filipinos still struggling to renew or apply for their passports amid the pandemic. Some overseas Filipino workers now worry the delays can even cost them their jobs. Tristan Odalo tells us the Foreign Affairs Department plans to open temporary sites to speed up passport processing.
As early as 5 in the morning of Monday, people started lining up outside the DFA consular office in Parañaque City for their passports.
Kasi para makuha ko yung passport ko at saka ang dami ng tao eh. Kaya maaga pa ako, alas 4, nandito na ako eh.
Struggle is real for many as they keep coming back to follow up on their applications. And not even the rain can stop them.
Lagi po kasing mahaba ang pila. Minsan po inaabutan pa kami ng cut-off. Wala na po kami inaabutan, papel na lang binibigay sa amin lagi. Nakaka-5 linggong pabalik-balik na po kami.
The delays in the processing and release of passports also put the jobs of some overseas Filipino workers in jeopardy. Some OFWs have canceled their flights due to passport delays.
3 buwan na mahigit eh. July 13 pa hanggang ngayon, hindi man nila pirma lang, hindi nila nire-release. 2 cancel na ako sa pag-alis ko sana. Hanggang ngayon wala.
Pabalik-balik na po ako dito. Tapos wala po silang linaw po sa passport ko po. Na-cancel na nga po yung flight ko nung August pa po.
The Foreign Affairs Department says there's an estimated 2.3 million backlogs on the issuance of passports. Adding to the challenge faced by the DFA are thousands of passport applications with erroneous data. The DFA, however, says it managed to reduce the backlog from 26,000 to 17,000. The DFA is also opening temporary sites in Laguna, Batangas, Davao, Cebu, and more sites in Metro Manila to speed up passport processing. Passport releasing has also been moved to the Double Dragon Plaza in Pasay City, which is open Mondays to Fridays from 8 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon. The agency reminds applicants to check first if their passports are ready for pick-up before proceeding to the consular offices.
The Department of Foreign Affairs also opens a courtesy lane for OFWs who urgently need their passports, but it should be made online. Passport slots for October through December are also not available at the DFA website as they make the necessary adjustments and to prevent the selling of passport slots on social media. Tristan Odalo, CNN Philippines.
And seismologists say 160 aftershocks have been recorded so far after a magnitude 5.7 earthquake struck the town of Looc in Occidental Mindoro past 1 this morning. Houses in a number of barangays in the nearby municipality or the nearby island municipality of Lubang suffered damage, according to Mayor Mark Orayani. The quake was also felt here in Metro Manila and in the provinces of Cavite, Rizal, and Nueva Ecija. Some residents and workers in office buildings were evacuated. Still ahead on Newsnight, the curtains have been lifted again for a prestigious awards night in theater. And Netflix gives us a first look at its new film starring action stars Dwayne Johnson and Gal Gadot. More details after the break.
Hocus Pocus sequel have been honing in on as they were seen when they were shopping at the New Bedford Antiques Cove Center.
They bought some dark chandeliers, some Halloween decorations, but a lot of things that you would associate with a creepy, haunted New England style.
Now, the set designers were looking for what are called layering items that would go in the backgrounds of the scenes to give those scenes authenticity.
The plot is reportedly similar to the original dark comedy, except this time 3 young women instead of a teenage boy inadvertently reawaken the Sanderson sisters, witches from 1693 in Salem, Massachusetts on Halloween, again being played by Midler, Parker, and Najimy.
Just to get to see them do this all over again and just get to relive those memory moments one more time, I'm looking forward to that.
The main exteriors for the sequel will be shot on an 8-building constructed set in Lincoln, Rhode Island at Chase Farm Park, with additional locations undisclosed yet, but being locked in, according to a Disney representative. Interiors will be shot at the Rehabbed Armory in Providence for the Fairy Dust Production soundstage, all over a 10-week period.
They did say to us, at the end of the movie, a house will burn down.
The antique's going to go with it?
I hope not.
There's a growing sense of magic in the air as the focus of the Hocus Pocus 2 production ramps up, with genuine New England backdrops, scenery, and set pieces to boot. Release date expected Halloween 2022.
Clint Eastwood's Cry Macho fell to 5th place in its sophomore weekend, earning $2.1 million. Candyman made $2.5 million for 4th place and a domestic total of $57 million. Free Guy is at $114 million domestic after a 3rd place weekend worth $4.1 million.
Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay.
A disappointing debut for Dear Evan Hansen. The film adaptation of the hit Broadway musical opened in 2nd place with a lower than expected $7.6 million.
You have the wrong guy. Does he look like he can fight?
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is now the top-grossing movie of 2021. The Marvel movie starring Simu Liu made another $13.3 million for a year's best domestic total of $196 million. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
You're watching Newsnight. I'm P. Ontiveros, recognizing some of the biggest names in theater today. The Tonys are back after being delayed for over a year. Supposedly set for June last year, the event was rescheduled to September 26 due to COVID-19 restrictions. The awards night saw the most wins from Moulin Rouge. They grabbed 10 Tonys, including Best Musical and Best Choreography. Leading the roster for nominated plays is The Inheritance, which received credit for direction and performances by its actors. They took home 4 awards, and despite garnering 12 nominations, the most for any play in Tony's history, Slave Play was left with no accolades. The audience also got to see the return of the first Asian Tony Award winner, our very own Lea Salonga. The former Miss Saigon star attended as a presenter, introducing John Legend before his performance with a cast of Ain't Too Proud to the songs of My Girl and Ain't Too Proud to Beg. And before we go, today's Hollywood Minute is filled with big screen action stars. Here's CNN's David Daniel.
Take it easy.
This is easy.
Gal Gadot shows moves worthy of Wonder Woman, taking down Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds in the first clip from Red Notice. The big-budget action flick about an FBI agent, an art thief, and a con artist debuts November 12th on Netflix. The sequel to Aquaman doesn't arrive until December of 2022, but its star is already trying to pique fans' interest. Jason Momoa tells Fandango the underwater action sequences in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom have gone to a whole other level, and that the film has a lot more heart. He also praised the comedy in the script. Quote, "I giggled reading it."
The newest member of my family.
Dave Bautista has a new friend. The actor and animal lover had posted on Instagram trying to track down who abandoned the pit bull puppy, who was found eating garbage with a metal chain embedded in her neck. After several weeks of Humane Society care, the dog has a new home, a new name, Penny Bautista, and a new leash on life. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
89 more days before Christmas, and that is it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again at 7 for News.ph. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This is Radio Philippines Network. E-Triple-X Zamboanga. E-Triple-X Zamboanga. The Great 108.
The COVID-19 pandemic has been an emotional roller coaster for all of us. And while we're busy working from home and homeschooling our children, our minds are overwhelmed with other stressors, such as the rising COVID-19 cases here in the country. Why don't we forget all of that, even for just a brief moment? Slow down for a while. Breathe in and out a few times. If your mind wanders, notice that and gently return your attention to your breathing. On the program today, we'll talk about how to use mindfulness and meditation in the time of COVID-19. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. With so many demands on our time and our minds, we often lose sight of why we're doing the things we do, and more importantly, how we're feeling. Mindfulness teaches us to focus on the present moment and accept it without judgment. Growing research shows that this practice is key in reducing stress and improving overall happiness. Let's welcome our guests for today. With us is Mr. Nino Galagak. He's the head psychologist at Heal Space Psychological Clinic. Also with us is Ms. Aik Suarez Ramos. She's a certified corporate wellness consultant from Wellness Without Borders. Now, many people think that mindfulness is about quieting the mind. Actually, the mind isn't going to stop wandering or even thinking. Coach Aik, I'll start with you. Let's explain how mindfulness works.
To be honest, mindfulness is something that all of us already have. All you have to do is just really be intentional and know how to activate it. Most of the time, because we are so caught up, yes, You're right. The mind gets too busy and it doesn't stop. But sometimes you should know how to calm itself down. Yeah.
This state of mind can be cultivated through meditation. Nino, how does meditation differ from mindfulness?
Mindfulness is a state of awareness wherein our full attention, just like what you have mentioned, is at the present moment. This is when we welcome our thoughts, feelings, and even what we feel in our body without resistance, and we do not judge whether these experiences are right or wrong or whether they're good or bad. While meditation, on the other hand, is an act. You could think of it as a practice or a strategy that you use to achieve that state of mindfulness. So there are a lot of different meditation activities, but all are gearing towards, making you more mindful.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's not easy to just stop thinking or even stop worrying. But Coach Aik, what would be a good way to start?
It's all about preparation. To be honest, as what I've mentioned earlier about intentionality, no matter if there's not really like a right time for you to start meditating. Set yourself finding a right space and a right time for it. You've mentioned earlier about not necessarily having to complete like a full sequence of meditation, like for 30 minutes or for an hour. Even just 5 minutes a day will really help us. But again, begin with an open mind. Yeah.
Okay. Now, thousands of years ago, Buddhists would practice mindfulness and meditations for spiritual enlightenment. Today, health experts discovered that this age-old tradition could reap tremendous benefits for us. Now, Coach Aik, let's go through some of the benefits for our viewers.
The benefits of mindfulness and meditation, have greatly expanded from spiritual benefits. Most importantly, in our physiological benefits, benefits sa katawan natin is actually will really help you. First and foremost is greater self-awareness. You will learn how to listen to your body. There are many different kinds of meditation, but most importantly is the health benefits it gives us. Better mental clarity, it gives you focus and alertness. So again, it's actually a total body importance of this bringing into ourselves.
Now, psychotherapists have recently turned to mindfulness to ease psychological stresses like depression and anxiety disorders. And it can be especially helpful in today's reality where stress and anxiety can be very overwhelming. Now, Nino, can we discuss the relationship between mindfulness as well as stress and anxiety, which are so prevalent sa ating mga Pilipino ngayon?
Doc, what happens is when you are not mindful, your attention is not with the present moment. So we tend to ruminate about the past and we remember most especially, the bad things that have happened. And it makes us sad and it could even send us to an episode of depression. Whereas on the other hand, if you worry so much of the future, it could make you very anxious. So mindfulness actually helps us acknowledge that the only time we actually have is the now. And it makes us very grounded. It could make us really focus our energies and direct our attention to what truly matters and to what is truly important in the present.
Very interesting. Now, studies have found that mindfulness can affect our bodies as well as our minds, with reports on reduced pain and lower blood pressure on those who practice it. Coach Aik, let's explain that naman.
Once you are stressed and once you feel anxious, you thought that your mind is just the one that is working, but actually it has a great effect on your body. So oppositely, if you do the mindfulness, same thing. If you put your body, imagine that you're putting your body in a calm state, even just for a couple of minutes per day. It gives you that increase in, for example, in your hormones. It gives you that uplift, greater sense of well-being. And later on, you will feel like pains, tensions on your body, good posture will also be developed. So again, there are so many ways on how mindfulness can really work.
Yes, that's true. And ultimately, what we want to partake in this is that mindfulness can help improve our overall happiness. Nino, tell our viewers more about this.
When we're mindful, like what Coach Ayev mentioned, we become less stressed, no? And when we are less stressed, that helps us also become more aware of what is happening around us and even inside of us. And when we are in that state, it allows us to think more critically and more carefully of our actions. When we are open to our experiences, we become creative. It helps us to sleep better. It improves our relationship. And when you have all those, then ultimately that could make you happy and satisfied with your life.
Whether through meditation or through breathing exercises, there are many ways to practice mindfulness. Yan ang pag-usapan natin after a short break. So stay with us here on MedTalk Health Talk. You're watching CNN Philippines. Mindfulness can play a role in reducing stress and managing anxiety. And it's exactly what we need these days, and it can help relieve pain and with blood pressure. Now, the idea of it is simple. Pause, breathe, and reflect. But it's not necessarily that easy. Today, we'll talk about the different ways to cultivate mindfulness. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Mindfulness is something we all have, but it's more available to us when we practice it on a daily basis. We mentioned that the formal way of developing it is through meditation. Coach Ayik, please explain the process of meditating.
With meditation, there again, as I've mentioned earlier, there are so many kinds of meditation, and of course the process could be different too. But ultimately, the four major processes of meditation is first, you need to be grounded. Stay with your awareness. Next is analyzation. So as you scan through the body, there are some meditation who will begin by scanning from their head all the way down to their shoulders, their legs, and then from all the way to their toes. So it's more of analyzation. Next is, of course, acceptance and acknowledgement. It's very important as you listen to the body, you do something about it. So again, if you feel any tension, any feel pain, don't be harsh on yourself. This is more of you finding yourself to have that kind of awareness, listen to it, and be able to do something about it.
Now, Nino, how often and for how long should we be meditating?
Actually, if you look into the results of many clinical studies, you would see there that they recommend different time intervals or duration for doing mindfulness meditation. The average would be at least to have it 45 minutes a day. But aside from the length or duration of your practice, what's more important also is your consistency. Meaning to say, maintaining it as part of your daily routines should make it more beneficial for you, aside from how long you do it actually.
Now, in addition to meditation, there are less formal approaches that can train your mind to be fully present. Coach Ayik, let's discuss that naman. What are some of these other practices?
So mindful practices can, if you are going to go through like researching, there are 6 steps to meditation, 8 steps, 4 steps meditation. But again, one way or another, all of these its purpose is for us to do a practice that is workable and practical for you. Again, as Dr. Freddy was saying, any time of the day, even at night before you sleep or starting your day in the middle of it. Breathing exercises is one example of that practice. Again, being more aware as you try to breathe in and breathe out in a calming state, have yourself in a seated position, being just more aware. Again, what is workable for you and how would be able to address the concern that you are feeling. It's more of like really a self-reflection in each of these practices.
Those that you mentioned, Coach Ayik, are very good. So similar to meditation, some of those practices that you mentioned involve using your breath as an anchor. Now, could you share with us, Coach Ayik, some breathing exercises naman that we could use?
Breathing exercise, for example, is when you try to inhale, you try to allow the full expansion of your lungs so you can hold it. We have this 8-8-4 sequence. So when you try to inhale, you count by 1, 2, 3, until you finish that 8 seconds. And then you exhale it for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then hold your breath for 4 seconds. And then again, inhale for 8 seconds, exhale for 8 seconds, and then hold it for 4 seconds. I want you to feel that it's more of you getting all the feeling of gratefulness, thankfulness, all the positive energy that you would want to acquire. And then exhale all the negativity. And once you exhale that carbon dioxide, so again, even if it's just a simple breathing pattern, as long as you are intentional on bringing in what's something that is good to you and bringing out what is something that you do not need or something that stresses you out. So yeah, that will really be helpful.
Breathing exercises right there. Now, yoga and Tai Chi are popular exercises that are grounded on breath work. Now, Nino, let's explain how they can help us be more mindful.
Yoga and Tai Chi are actually mindfulness activities which include a lot of gentle movements. There are postures also that you have to do, and it really would require a lot of deep movements to your body. You activate the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of your body which regulates relaxation, and it could also make you very focused.
Now, we can also exercise mindfulness by deliberately paying attention to activities that are routine to us, like mindful eating as well as physical activity.
During mindful eating allows us to just slow down and just savor the moment and really just enjoy this very usual and mundane activities. So these are very, these activities are very, like what I've said, very usual that we do daily. But when we immerse ourselves with these activities, by paying attention to what we're doing, it could make so much difference.
Now, eventually, you'll be more mindful when you're doing things that mean more to you, like spending time with your friends and family, or even just watching TV or reading a book. Nowadays, routine activities involve following health standards against COVID-19. Nino, can you give us some examples on how we can practice mindfulness in this time of COVID-19?
There are many ways to practice mindfulness, especially in these times where many of our activities are restricted and we're just mostly at the confines of our home. So Coach Aik already mentioned breathing exercises and muscle relaxation, but physical activities such as brisk walking or yoga, Dr. Freddie also mentioned guided meditation. Those are mindfulness activities that you could try, but also like taking time for some social media detox, single tasking or not, trying to do everything at once, and praying are also some of the mindfulness activities that you could incorporate in your day.
Now, is there evidence that mindfulness works? We'll discuss this when we return. We want to be your partner for a lifetime of good health, so keep it here on CNN Philippines. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the mental health of many, from anxieties brought about by quarantine restrictions to fear from constant COVID-19 related news. Can mindfulness and meditation protect against COVID-19 stressors? I'm Dr. Freddie Gomez, and this is MedTalk Health Talk, where your health comes first. Mindfulness and meditation protects mental health during COVID-19. Coach Aik, have there been any studies on this so far?
Studies have shown that the COVID-19, apart from attacking you because of your lower immunity, is also attacking us mentally and psychologically. Why? It's because all of these, what the pandemic have brought in us is us staying at home, feeling worried about what's ahead of us, financially, right? With our relationships with our family. So a lot of stressors.
Now, ultimately, mindfulness can help us process these strong emotions brought about by the pandemic. Now, Nino, what are things to keep in mind when practicing mindfulness during COVID-19?
Doc Freddy, it's really important that we set a time of our day where we could just be silent and alone with our thoughts and feelings, to just pause and take a good breathing. And like what I have said a while back, consistency is very important. What you have set into doing, maintain it and make it a part of your daily routine.
And while mindfulness and meditation isn't a quick fix, it can yield rewarding results. Coach Ayik, I'm sure many of our viewers might be wondering how long until they start seeing changes if they start doing this consistently.
Well, to be honest, as early as 5 days of continuously doing it. There are some research of doing it for 5 minutes for the next 5 days in the morning greatly affects their overall day. But in the long run, it's really such a good practice of you finding yourself on those practices and how can you be happier.
Before we go, Nino, do you have any advice for our viewers, especially for those who are new to being mindful about themselves?
Let's all be kind to ourselves. We must be able to really treat ourselves gently, just as how we would like to treat others, and treating others with compassion and remembering that kindness begins with oneself. And with meditation and mindfulness, that is one way you could be kind to yourself.
And Coach Ayik, any advice for your viewers today?
So again, my advice is for you to just really try. Again, have that intention of what is in it for you this time. Have that kind of reflection to yourself. Again, being kind to yourself is one way of you loving yourself. And if this is something that would help you, with your mental health, and why not try it with us?
And the more time you spend practicing mindfulness, you'll find yourself calmer and kinder to yourself and those around you. And this will trickle down to other aspects of your life. It was a meaningful conversation today, so thank you, psychologist Mr. Nino Galakgak and wellness coach Ayik Suarez Ramos for guiding us on today's topic. Remember, mindfulness is a practice you can keep coming back to. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we'll see you again next time. Stay safe, everyone.
Gucci, Gucci, Prada. Awesome! Radio na entero Western. Radio Honda, Zamboanga.